you've noticed a change in your parents. You have visited them one weekend, dishes piling up, obvious they hadn't taken a bath in a little while, laundry, just little pills not taken, the medicine box still full. But you recognize they need some help. Something is off. But when you try to bring it up to them, very reluctant or fearfully resistant or even downright angry that you would think that they cannot care for themselves anymore.
Yeah. They're concerned about losing their independence.
Yeah. And this is often a hard pill to swallow. Losing self-care abilities is not readily accepted by seniors. So often, sadly, it takes maybe a bad fall,
right,
or something terrible happening or medical emergency in the home before then they're forced into this situation.
Right. Hi, my name is Orrit Bailey, and
I'm Martha Bailey.
And today we're going to talk to you about how to communicate with your parents about the care they need.
Number one, assess the situation and your loved ones. You can't just show up and randomly decide to discuss this. You have to conduct your research. You want to make sure you have your examples, your stories of her friends at church or in the community who are facing similar situations at home. And especially those who have taken the step to get help in the home and want to show how this is making a difference for them.
Understanding a general view of the senior landscape will help you have perspective. But the stories that Marva mentioned helps your senior loved one realize that they're not the only one going through this, and it's not unique to them, and it helps them to deal with that information in a better way. Conducting research has two parts to it. The first part is to spend some time understanding what's happening with your senior loved one. That may include spending time at the home, as Margaret mentioned earlier, seeing how they care for themselves, observing what they're doing with their medication, what their environment looks like, often are they taking a bath, and just get a general sense of what their day-to-day life is like. And that can give a general sense of where they are now versus what you remember they used to be. The other part of conducting research is understanding the options in the senior care space. So that can range from what are caregivers, what that looks like to come in and care for a senior person. What are other options, whether it be assisted or independent living, and how does that play into the care for a senior person? Getting a general understanding of the landscape and resources around you. It may also include, I think Marva hinted at, folks that your senior loved one may know, what are they doing, so that you get a sense of what people around your senior loved one is currently doing, and it provides perspective and helps you have a more informed conversation whenever you get to that point. Number two, don't ambush them with a conversation. Oftentimes, what we find is that adult children would show up, feel concerned, and they launch into almost a tirade with their senior parent. And oftentimes that goes nowhere. They get defensive reaction from their parent. And so what we recommend is that consider setting up the conversation. Indirect way, share a concern, but say, can I come back next week, maybe have lunch, and have a conversation about this particular concern? So at least they know what it is you're coming to talk about, and they have time to reflect on it. It may not 100% lower all of the defenses, but it puts them in a better place to have that conversation. The other thing we've hinted at so far is also sharing stories. We mentioned towards the beginning, getting some stories that you can share, maybe of people you know or other seniors in general. And oftentimes when we share stories of other seniors going through something similar, it's a way to challenge them that, hey, this may happen to you, and it's okay to make this particular choice, instead of lecturing them and say, you need to do this or that. And I think those are two things that we believe will be helpful in having, at least launching a proper conversation.
And sometimes you find, I'm going to get in trouble, but we all know it's true that moms or dads, they may have their favorite. And sometimes moms, it's usually the older son, especially if the husband is gone, they provide a kind of security. So get that favorite child in to have the conversation. Have, if you have other siblings, and if you're the only child and you're the only option, get in, and this will help to ease them into, instead of just coming in, Mom, we got to do this now. No, let's have a conversation, because regardless what's going on, they're still grown-ups. They're adults, and they're, parents.
We can tell you from experience, they take offense to their children making decisions for them without consulting them in the first place.
We just had one of those. Dear sweet lady was in the hospital, not able really to make decisions, or so the children thought. And she took huge offense. Just about everything they put in place, she came out, she changed it. So I would advise it really good to include them in the conversation and in the decision-making process. After a while, they will think they made that decision.
Right. Number 3, having the conversation. So we've talked about this to some length in our last point. One of the things I want to mention here that's really important is to start the conversation with questions. Find out what's important to them, where they are, what their concerns are, and just give them an opportunity to give them a voice in the situation. And I think starting there sets up the adult child to have a better conversation. Part of this also is getting a sense of what do they want? What do they want to accomplish? And I think when we understand that, we can show them a solution. It may be our solution, but we can show it to them in a way where they see it in light of what they want. And in light of that, they're more likely to embrace it than when the adult child just come and say, you got to do this, Mom. It's do or die. And as we've mentioned before, they take offense to that. So the conversation, again, ask questions, understand what they want, and then that guides where you go in terms of positioning the best solution in light of their particular objective.
So some other things to keep in mind, make it, whether you want to do it at her home or at even a luncheon where they can be private.
Neutral ground.
Neutral ground. That's the phrase. Yes. And make sure that favorite child is present. So, and if you're the only child, show up with a lot of prayer. And with the attitude that you're not going to force mom or dad to do this thing. But like Orit said, you're asking questions. And you're trying to get them to see through the questions, to discuss or describe for themselves what the need is and what the greatest challenge is. And then you're gonna, here are some options, Mom, from that research. Here are some options, Dad. And let them say, what do you feel? And a lot of times they may say, I want to stay in my home. And I say, well, staying in your home, this is what that means.
Right.
We can get someone to come in. You can meet with some agencies, and they can tell you more about how they provide care in the home. And that makes them a part of your conversation and the decision-making. World of difference.
And I think the important thing to realize with that too is that they may not be 100% hunky-dory about the decision, but if they realize this is the best option for them based on what they want, regardless of how they feel, they will go ahead and move in that direction and work with it fully rather than just turning against what you do. For example, we've seen where adult children have brought in caregivers to care for their parents, and the parents seem at every stage to want to sabotage the care that they're receiving because they weren't part of that. So I think having the conversation, as we talked about, letting them see that it's in their benefit, and once they embrace that, they may not like it, but they will accept it because they realize they need it. So if after watching this brief video, some of these things clicked with you, we'd like to offer ourselves as a resource as you begin to consider your options. And you can consider this part of your research that we can help you get a better sense of what's happening in the senior care space and help you begin to understand and frame that conversation with your parents. So set up a free in-home assessment with us. Go to our website, pathlightseniorcare.com, and from there you'll be able to set up an assessment. We'll meet with you, have that conversation. From there, you know how best to proceed. Again, it's pathlightseniorcare.com.